Katilyn, I know you're not going to have a baby because I know what it takes to make a baby, and you and Tanner just don't seem like those kind of people. That's from a recent conversation with my 9-year-old cousin. Now, this may seem like an obviously skewed view of healthy sexuality, but you would be shocked at how many kids in our LDS community have an unhealthy and even negative view of sexuality, even in marriage. This is especially concerning when we consider how bombarded our children are with sex every day. According to one study conducted by Eastern Michigan University in 2011, by age 15 to 17, 50 to 70% of young adults are sexually active. And by age 18, 90%. The LDS community is not far behind. And yet, our parents are not talking to our kids about sex. So today, I want to talk to you about the fact that parents aren't talking to their kids and the negative consequences that that has. Second, talk about why parents aren't talking. And finally, what we can do to align our culture more with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So first, some religious institutions are less likely to talk to their kids about sex. And in a publication in the Sociological Quarterly Journal in 2006, it says, Mormon affiliations rejected and refused to discuss birth control more than any other affiliation. In one article posted in the Salt Lake Tribune, Shalom Levitt, who's a professor here in the School of Family Life, talks about how this is something we're incredibly quiet about because we grow up in what can be a somewhat prudish community, and students come to her timid and fearful that enjoying sex in their marriage is against their religion. I want to share an experience with you. Recently, my sister, who started college about a year ago, called me with a group of her roommates to ask me questions about sex. Now, I was lucky enough to grow up in a family where my parents initiated open conversations of sex pretty regularly, and I knew that if I had any questions or concerns, that I could go to them. However, my sister's friends didn't have that chance, so they had to come to me. Another problem that we see a lot is what's known as the good girl or the good boy syndrome. Now, marriage and intimacy therapist and expert Laura Brotherson describes this as the negative attitudes, behaviors, and feelings that inhibit sexual enjoyment in marriage. This manifests as feelings of shame, guilt, discomfort, and results from misguided information or a lack of positive information. This negative conditioning, she says, and lack of sexual knowledge or promotion of marital sexuality may be the great underlying and oft ignored source of sexual dissatisfaction in many marriages. And as we know, according to the certified divorce financial analyst, sexual issues are the second leading cause in divorce today. One LDS therapist this year put it this way: from the perspective of a therapist who has worked with dozens of LDS newlyweds, I want to assure you that these attitudes are not serving your children. In fact, they may even be detrimental to their potential relationships. I've worked with clients who experience so much shame about their body and sexual expression that they avoid sex. I've worked with couples so ill-prepared for intimacy that the first sexual experience they share after marriage was physically and emotionally traumatic. It's time to stop pretending that our children are not sexual beings that will magically become sexual once they get married. So obviously, this is a big problem. Why aren't parents talking to their kids about sex? Well, Eastern Michigan universities set out to answer just that. And what they found is, one, it's embarrassing for both parties. Two, sometimes parents feel insecure about their own sexual knowledge. And three, they think it's unnecessary because our kids are learning it at school and from their friends. I want to present two more that we see in our culture a lot. One, we have this crazy idea that if we talk to our kids about sex, it will somehow seem more permissible or okay. And we think, well, they're getting the law of chastity lesson at church, so that's enough, right? It's not enough. Your kids need to know that they can come to you. So what are we going to do to align our culture more with the doctrine? Well, the doctrine is incredibly positive. True to the Faith defines sex as divinely approved and an expression of love beyond just procreation. We need to stop this idea of no, 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 go, and instead teach it as good from the beginning in the right time. Julie Hanks, a family therapist, gave us these suggestions in LDS Living. She says, 1, sexuality begins at birth. 2, we need to have an open, ongoing conversation rather than a one-time the talk. We can increase our own sexual comfort level. We need to normalize pleasure and avoid sexual shaming, teaching our kids that sex is good in the right time and the right place. And finally, address why, not just what. So in conclusion, parents need to be talking to their kids about sex, and they're not. And the reasons why are simply not good enough, especially when we consider the negative consequences. If we take these suggestions, we can overcome those issues and align our culture more with the doctrine of Jesus Christ. So, will you have courage to break the silence?